Maybe what you feel is not sadness. Maybe it's something more subtle, quieter, a disconnection from your own soul, that strange feeling of being present in body but absent in spirit. You are living, yes, but living on autopilot. And living on autopilot is the most camouflaged way to get lost. You get up every day, you do your tasks, you smile when you're expected to smile, you deliver what the world demands of you. But deep down, something remains empty. You ask yourself silently, why doesn't anything touch me like it used to? And maybe no one will notice. Maybe no one will notice the absence you feel inside, because on the outside, you are whole. But inside, she's tired. Tired of pretending everything is okay. Tired of following a script you didn't write. Tired of being busy, but never fulfilled. There is a kind of pain that doesn't scream. She masks herself as routine. It hides in busy schedules, in responsibilities, in automatic smiles. But when silence arrives, you feel it. The soul is asking for help. Rumi wrote, "Don't be satisfied with stories of how things happen to others. Awaken your own legend." But how can you wake up if you have fallen asleep within yourself? How can you find meaning if you've moved away from what truly gives you life? You haven't lost the meaning of life. You just stopped listening to him. And when you stop listening to yourself, everything seems meaningless. You are not broken. You are disconnected. Disconnected from your truth, from your inner voice, from your sacred purpose. The soul cannot bear to be ignored for long. She starts sending signals. Emptiness, tiredness, dissatisfaction. No matter how much you achieve or who is by your side, if you are not with yourself, nothing will fulfill you. Rumi also said, "You were born with wings. Why do you still crawl through life?" That question cuts like a knife, doesn't it? Because deep down you know you were born for more. You know there is something inside you that is crying out to be awakened, something that was silenced by the demands of the world. But he's still alive, waiting. The automatic steals that from you. It trains you to survive, not to feel. He makes you follow patterns, not intuitions. It takes you away from the soul, from the sacred, from the poetry that exists in simply to be. And the more you get used to not feeling, the more you believe you've lost meaning. But the meaning is not out there. He lives in the place where you stopped looking. Within. You feel it, don't you? This desire to breathe differently, to live with soul, to reconnect with something the world cannot give you. You miss yourself, even if you don't know you do. And this is where everything starts to change. Because recognizing this void is the first step to filling it with truth, with presence, with real life. But for that, you need to stop. You need to get out of automatic mode. You need to come back to the now, where your soul still whispers. She never abandoned you. She just fell silent, waiting for you to listen to her again. You feel it, don't you? This silent desire to truly live again, of looking in the mirror and recognizing not just your face, but the soul behind your eyes. To break free from this cycle of waking up, functioning, fulfilling, erasing. Life was not meant to be endured. It was meant to be felt. But the automatic taught you to shut up, ignoring your body's signals, disbelieving the messages from your soul, seeking quick answers to deep pain. And maybe, just maybe, you clicked on this video because something inside you screamed, even if in a whisper. Something said, "Listen to this. This is for you." And it is indeed. Because this video is not just about words. It's about you. About what you still feel but don't know how to name. About everything that was kept, hidden, swallowed. And now he's asking for passage. If at any point this message has touched something inside you, comment now. I didn't lose my senses. I was just on autopilot. Write this down. Because when you write, you declare. You create a commitment to your own truth. And if you felt that this video speaks to your soul, leave a like. Not by me, but for you. For the space you are opening now to listen to yourself. Subscribe. Because here, each video is a mirror. And you don't have to walk alone anymore. Now take a deep breath. It will hurt a little, but it will heal. You're tired, aren't you? But it's not the kind of tiredness that can be cured with a good night's sleep. It's deeper, more subtle, more persistent. It's a weariness of the soul. An invisible exhaustion that doesn't show up on tests but weighs heavily on your chest. You get up every day, fulfill your obligations, smile when expected, handle everything. But inside, you're empty, and no one notices. Or worse, you've started to convince yourself that this emptiness is normal. Have you ever wondered why everything seems colorless even when, on paper, your life seems right? Why, even though you have a job, a home, people around you, do you still feel like something is missing? It's as if the world keeps turning outside, but inside you, time has stopped. As if your soul has gone silent, and this silence screams, but no one listens. This pain you feel, this discomfort that silently accompanies you, is not a whim. It's not an exaggeration. It's a cry for help from your essence. It's your soul trying to call you back. Because at some point in your history, you began living on autopilot. You began to distance yourself to adapt, to please, to survive. You began to function like a machine. And the problem is that the world applauds those who can handle it all, even if it costs them their own soul. Rumi said, "You sit by the fire and still shiver with cold." This happens when the fire is outside, but not inside you. And that's exactly how you feel. You're surrounded by stimuli, tasks, demands, but none of them warm your spirit because you've failed to nurture what truly matters, your inner connection. The invisible problem isn't what's missing outside. It's what's been silenced inside. And this silencing happens gradually. You stop saying what you feel, then you stop feeling what you want. At some point, you even forget what you really want. You become an expert at caring for others, at solving problems, at keeping everything under control. But in the process, you abandon yourself. The deepest wound isn't the one that bleeds. It's the one you've learned to hide so well that you've even stopped looking at it. And maybe you're living like this, whole on the outside but crumbling on the inside, because no one taught you that the soul also needs to be heard. That emotional silence is also a symptom. That emptiness isn't the absence of life, but the absence of meaning. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone, and this inner loneliness is one of the hardest pains to name, because it has no form, no obvious cause, no apparent reason, but it's there, making you feel that no matter how hard you try, it's never enough. No matter how hard you run, it never arrives. No matter how much you smile, it's never true joy. You've grown accustomed to surviving, but that's not living, and you feel it, even if you can't explain it. There are days when everything is fine, but you cry. There are nights when you look in the mirror and miss yourself, as if that woman reflected in your eyes isn't you anymore, just the functional version the world has molded. And all of this is invisible, because no one sees, no one asks, no one imagines. You've become good at hiding, good at pretending, good at following. But deep down, you know you're losing yourself. And the cruelest part is when you start accepting this state as natural, when you start believing that this is what life is all about. Wake up, run, give in, sleep, repeat. But it isn't. Life is more than that. The soul knows. It always has. That's why it keeps trying to call you. That's why, even with everything seemingly in order, you feel like something is missing. You are missing. Your essence, your feelings, your flame. Maybe you've lived for others for so long that you've forgotten how to live for yourself. Maybe you've layered so much pain on top of it that you don't even know where it begins. But it's there, and it's yours, and ignoring it won't heal it. Pretending won't fill it. The emptiness you feel is not the end. It's the beginning. It's the exact point where the soul asks to return. And it's not a return to a place, but to yourself, to your truth, to your presence, to your sacred silence. That's why even though you have everything, you feel like you have nothing. Because everything you've achieved doesn't include your own presence. And without you, nothing makes sense. The invisible problem is precisely this. You've been slowly drifting away from yourself. So slowly that you didn't even notice. But now your soul is asking for a reunion. And it's not too late. It never is. But you have to stop. You have to listen. You have to accept that this pain has something to say. Because all pain of the soul is, in fact, an invitation. If you felt this way at any point in this video, write in the comments, "I miss myself." Write this sentence, not out of commitment, but out of courage, for yourself. Because perhaps this is the first time you're acknowledging this truth out loud. And that is the beginning of healing. What separates you from yourself isn't the world. It's not people. It's not even the challenges you faced. What separated you from yourself was the silent habit of ignoring your soul, of living on autopilot. You learned to survive, to follow patterns, to obey rhythms that aren't yours, to adapt to environments where your essence doesn't fit. And at first it seemed necessary. It seemed like it was just a phase, just a pause. But this pause became routine. It became a way of life. And when the soul is ignored for too long, it begins to disappear from your own days. You didn't realize when it started. Maybe it was after a disappointment, a loss, a pain no one understood. Maybe it was that moment when you decided you needed to be strong, even though you were broken inside. That's when the disconnect began. That's when you stopped being yourself and started being what others needed you to be. And living like this hurts, but it hurts in silence. Because automatic thinking has this cruelty. It numbs you. It makes you function, but not feel. It makes you exist, but not live. And this numb state becomes comfortable, because feeling is scary. Feeling requires presence. Feeling requires courage. So you carry on, doing everything right, but feeling increasingly wrong inside. Rumi said, "You were born with wings. Why do you still crawl through life?" This phrase isn't beautiful poetry. It's a brutal reminder. It's a spiritual call. Because living on autopilot is crawling. It's dragging yourself through existence while your soul begs for flight. You know there's something more inside you. You know you were born for more than this repetitive cycle. But they forgot to teach you how to fly with a broken heart. How to hear your soul amidst the noise of the world. How to feel again when you've learned to be silent. The emptiness you feel isn't the end, it's not a sentence, it's the signal, it's the call. It's your soul's way of crying out, "Come back." But this cry is silent. It comes in the form of insomnia, anguish, and anxiety attacks you can't explain. It manifests in the constant feeling of not belonging, of always being lacking, of not being enough. But no matter how much you try to fill this hole with distractions, with work, with relationships, with goals, it remains there. Because what's missing isn't outside, it's inside. And herein lies the spiritual root of your pain. Because this pain isn't physical, it isn't logical, it comes from a deeper place. From your separation from yourself, from your loss of contact with the sacred that lives within you. And when you disconnect from this essential part, everything loses meaning. You can be surrounded by achievements and still feel empty, because nothing fills what only your inner reconnection can heal. You're not broken. You're disconnected. There's a huge difference between a wounded soul and a forgotten soul. The wound can be healed, but the forgotten soul begins to fade. And that's why you feel lost. Because the connection has been fading little by little until you can no longer hear your own voice. And when you don't listen to yourself, you listen to anything. You listen to what the world says, what society imposes, what others expect, and you mold yourself into it. But every time you mold yourself into something that isn't you, a piece of your essence disappears. It's no wonder you miss yourself so much. It's no wonder you feel like there's something inside you wanting to wake up. It's your soul trying to remind you that there's still time, that there's still a path, that there's still within you the seed of who you were before you fell silent, before you adapted too much, before you forgot who you are. The root of pain isn't what they did to you. It's what you failed to do for yourself. It's where you stopped prioritizing yourself. It's when you decided that feeling was too dangerous, that it was better not to touch it now, that one day you would take care of it, but that day never came. And now, the soul takes its toll, and it takes its toll with this constant feeling of emptiness, with this sadness that appears for no reason, with this feeling of always being on the margins of your own life. And maybe somewhere inside you there's a voice that says, "But I don't even know who I am anymore." And that's okay, because you don't need to have all the answers right now. You just need to accept that this pain has a name, and that name is estrangement. Estrangement from you, from your feelings, from your sacredness. Healing begins when you stop running, when you look honestly at this silence that dwells within you, when you understand that you are not broken. You are in process, a spiritual process, a call to return to what is true. And this return doesn't happen all at once. It begins with small permissions, allowing yourself to feel, allowing yourself to pause, allowing yourself to not know, allowing yourself to relearn who you are. And if what you're hearing right now is stirring something inside you, It's because the time has come. Time to get off autopilot. Time to stop crawling. Time to remember that you were born with wings, and that even when you're hurt, you can still fly. If this part of the video made sense to you, write in the comments. I reconnect with myself, because this isn't just a comment, it's a decision, a silent choice to return home. And home is you. What no one told you is that this emptiness you feel isn't a sign of failure. It doesn't mean your life is wrong, nor that you're broken beyond repair. This emptiness is a portal. It's a coded message from your soul, trying to tell you that you've strayed from what's essential. And do you know why this hurts so much? Because what you lost wasn't someone. It wasn't an opportunity. It wasn't a path. What you lost, and perhaps you haven't even fully realized it yet, was your inner listening. You stopped listening to yourself, and it wasn't all at once. It was gradual, one silence at a time, one "it doesn't matter now" at a time, a priority that belonged to others that you put before your soul again and again, until the sound of your own truth became too quiet to be heard. And now, what remains is this persistent feeling of absence. But it's not the absence of the world. It's the absence of you within yourself. When you go on autopilot, the soul doesn't disappear. It just retreats. It stops speaking loudly because it realizes you're no longer listening. It whispers, with hope, in those moments when you lay your head on the pillow and feel an unease you can't explain. It whispers on the days when you have everything to be happy, but feel something is off. It whispers when you find yourself staring out the window thinking of nothing, yet feeling everything at the same time. The soul doesn't scream. It just falls silent and waits for someone to notice. And that's the hidden key. The key no one gave you, because they taught you to be strong, to keep going, to not stop, to cope, to produce, to survive. But no one taught you to come back to yourself. No one taught you to truly listen to yourself, to hear your pain as a cry for acceptance, not as a sign of weakness, to recognize that there's wisdom in every tear you've hidden, in every emotion you've learned to ignore. You were taught to run from discomfort, to distract yourself from pain, to fill the silence with noise, the void with occupations, the soul with appearances. But what no one told you is that healing isn't outside. Healing is in the very place you most fear to look, within yourself, within that silence that seems so uncomfortable, because it is in this silence that your truth resides. It is there that your soul holds the answers you've sought in so many places, and they were never far away. They were always there, dormant, waiting for you to hear them. And listening to yourself is a revolutionary act, because in the world we live in, feeling deeply has become weakness. Talking about pain has become drama. Stopping has become wasteful. But it is precisely in pausing, in listening, in surrendering that the soul begins to blossom again. Because the soul doesn't heal in haste. The soul heals with presence. You don't need another magic formula. You don't need ready-made answers. You need a return to your truth, a return to what pulses within you, even when everything seems dormant. You need to allow yourself to feel what has been trying to be felt for so long. You need to embrace discomfort not as an enemy but as an invitation, because everything you avoid feeling is, in fact, waiting to set you free. The hidden key is simple yet deeply overlooked. You need to listen to yourself, not to what the world expects of you, not to what others think is right, but to what your soul, silently, has been trying to tell you. You need to allow yourself to slow down and find yourself. Allow yourself to feel the pain without blaming yourself for it. Allow yourself to recognize that everything is not okay, and that it's okay not to be okay all the time. Allow yourself to fall, and then get up consciously. Allow yourself to stop pretending to feel and start truly feeling. This key isn't found in self-help books or instant promises. It's within you. It always has been. It's just that, in the noise of life, you stopped looking for it in the right place. And that's okay, because now you're here. And being here listening to this is a form of listening. It's your soul responding, "I'm still alive, I'm still here." You haven't lost your meaning. You've just silenced it. And now it's calling you back. Calling with strength, with love, with urgency. Because you deserve to find yourself again. You deserve to feel life with your soul again. You deserve to live in tune with who you truly are. And that starts now. In this moment when you recognize that you need to stop running away from yourself. If this part of the video spoke to you, write in the comments. I listen to myself with courage. Because writing this is more than just commenting. It's reaffirming to yourself that you choose to listen to your truth, that you choose to return. And believe me, the soul always celebrates when someone decides to listen to it again. Maybe you're still in that exact cycle. A silent but suffocating cycle. You wake up in a hurry. You rush. You try to keep everything under control. You take care of the house, work, others. You handle commitments, deadlines, expectations. You're always available, always solving, always working. And in the midst of all this, you yourself have been put off until a later that never arrives. Because every time you think about taking care of yourself, something more urgent appears. And you swallow your tears, swallow your exhaustion, swallow the desire to simply stop, as if stopping were a crime, as if taking care of yourself were a luxury. And then comes that inevitable moment. You're alone, tired. You look in the mirror, and what you see there isn't you. It's a version of yourself you've constructed to cope. But it's not your essence. It's a reflection you've learned to hide, to pretend, to endure. You look and miss it, but you don't know exactly why. You just know something got lost along the way. And it hurts. It hurts not knowing exactly what's wrong. It hurts this feeling that, despite all your efforts, you're not living. You're just surviving. This is a story that repeats itself every day in the lives of so many people. And maybe yours is like that right now. Maybe you recognize yourself in every word. And maybe you think this is normal. After all, everyone is tired. Everyone is rushing. Everyone is trying. But the truth is, there's a profound difference between physical exhaustion and spiritual exhaustion. And when the soul is exhausted, no rest can restore it. No distraction can fulfill it. No goal achieved makes sense. You know that moment when you finally accomplish something important, but immediately feel empty? It's as if nothing has any value, as if no achievement can truly touch your heart. This happens because you're trying to fill a spiritual hole with external solutions. And this hole doesn't close with more productivity, with more recognition, with more effort. It closes with reconnection. And reconnection begins with something simple, yet powerful. Coming back to yourself. Return within. Return to listening to what you feel. Return to allowing the pain to surface, yes, but also the light to enter. Rumi said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." And this wound you've been trying to hide, this silent pain you camouflage with smiles, is exactly the space where your healing wants to be born. But it won't be born if you keep ignoring it. It won't blossom if you keep extinguishing yourself. Maybe you've been in a relationship where you gave too much of yourself, where you forgot yourself to try to save the other person. And in the end, you were the one who was shattered. Maybe you drowned yourself in professional obligations wanting to prove your worth, and in the process you lost your sense of joy. Or maybe your pain comes from an even deeper place, that feeling of never being truly seen, of always needing to be strong, even when everything inside you begged for comfort, care, and listening. These are concrete examples, stories you can recognize as your own, because they're not uncommon. On the contrary, they're stories hidden behind seemingly strong faces. They're stories repeated in hushed voices, in tired eyes, and long silences. And if no one has told you this yet, I'll tell you now. You haven't lost yourself. You've abandoned yourself. But every soul can be found again. And this reunion doesn't happen with major changes from the outside in. It starts small. It begins the moment you decide to listen to yourself. It begins when you allow yourself to feel without guilt. When you cry without judging yourself. When you take a deep breath and instead of forcing yourself to move on, ask honestly, what am I feeling right now? And listen to the answer, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. Maybe your answer is, I'm exhausted. Or, I don't know who I am anymore. Or even, I can't stand living like this anymore. And that's okay. None of these answers are the end. On the contrary, they are beginnings. Because when the truth appears, the soul begins to reorganize itself. It begins to reconnect. And little by little you will reconnect, not with the old idealized version of who you once were, but with the real woman who exists today. With all her pain, yes, but also with all her power. You don't need to wait for a miracle. You don't need to wait for someone to come and save you. Because the salvation you seek is within. It's in this internal movement of reconnection. It's in the moment you choose to stop running from yourself and decide to walk toward your truth, even in fear, even in tears, even without knowing the next step. The soul doesn't demand certainty. It just needs to be heard. And if you've made it this far in this video, it's because something within you is already awakening. Something within you has realized that this cycle cannot continue, that this automatic way of existing doesn't honor who you are, that the time has come to turn the key to reconnection, to listening, to caring, the key to reconnecting with your essence. If this part of the journey touched you, write in the comments, "I choose to find myself again," because this phrase spoken by you is more than words. It's a silent affirmation of return, a step toward the soul, and it has been waiting for you. You are not the routine, and this needs to be said forcefully, truthfully, and with presence. You are not the to-do list you carry on your shoulders every day. You are not the obligation that pushes you out of bed in the morning. You are not the role you play, the function you perform, the title you were given, or what you are expected to be. All of this may be within you, but none of it defines who you are, because you, at your core, are much more than a body repeating movements. You are soul. You are depth. You are living presence. You are the fire that was extinguished and now ready to be rekindled. Maybe you've spent so much time living as if life were just a battlefield that you've forgotten there's a space inside you that doesn't need fighting, a space of silence, of truth, of reconnection. But it's still there, even after everything, even after being broken so many times. Because as Rumi said, the wound is the place where the light enters you. And if you feel pain, if you feel this emptiness, it's because there's still room for the light to enter. This is the turning point. The shift in consciousness isn't an external event. It's not a miracle that descends from the sky and transforms everything in the blink of an eye. The turning point begins when you begin to see yourself with new eyes. When you understand that the emptiness you feel isn't punishing you, it's inviting you to return, to dive in, to a new way of being within yourself. Emptiness is the necessary pause between who you were and who you're ready to become. It's a fertile silence, a germinating darkness, a call from the soul, but it only reveals what it carries when you stop running from it, when you accept being where you are, with everything you feel, without masks, without justifications, when you decide to stop, to breathe, to feel, and allow the soul to speak again, because it never shouted. It was always subtle, it always whispered, but in the hustle and bustle of routine, in the weight of expectations, in the noise of others, you stopped listening to it. And now is the time to return to that listening, to sit with yourself in the silence and simply ask, "What do you need to tell me?" The soul always responds, sometimes with tears, sometimes with relief, sometimes with memories that return, other times with an even deeper silence that demands patience. But it responds, and each response is a piece of you returning home, a fragment of your essence that was forgotten, but that never ceased to exist. You don't need to reinvent yourself. You need to remember. Remember the woman you were before you molded yourself too much, before you became too silent, before you believed you had to be everything to everyone. Rumi said, "Don't settle for stories of how things happen to others. Awaken your own legend." And this legend isn't about great deeds, it's about courage. The courage to go within, to listen to yourself, to care for yourself, to allow yourself. And allowing is a verb you need to start conjugating more often. Allowing yourself to feel without feeling guilty. Allowing yourself to slow down without feeling like you're wasting time. Allowing yourself to not know without feeling like it weakens you. Allowing yourself to fall, yes, but also allowing yourself to get up with a new perspective, because you are not the pain you experienced. You are the one who survived it. You are the one who weathered storms in silence and even wounded moved on. But now it's no longer about just following. Now it's about awakening. It's about understanding that there's something inside you that's ready to blossom again. And it doesn't matter how long you felt distant from yourself. The soul holds no grudges. It just waits for the right moment to return. And perhaps that moment is now. This second, this breath, this reunion with your innermost truth. Don't wait until you feel ready. The soul doesn't need perfection, it needs truth. It needs your full presence. Even if that presence is still trembling, even if it's tired, even if it's confused, what matters is your surrender. Surrendering to the now, to what you feel, to what pulses, to what demands passage. Because this is the turning point. Leaving behind the illusion that your life will only improve when everything is resolved, and entering into the reality that your healing begins at the very point where you accept being where you are. Embracing what is. Embracing what hurts. Embracing yourself with the same compassion you give others. Because you too deserve to be embraced. You too deserve to be heard. You too deserve your own presence. If this part of your journey resonated with your soul, write in the comments, "I allow the light to enter." Because this phrase isn't just a symbol, it's a key, a silent password to your own healing. And by writing it, you're saying, with words and presence, "I'm back, I'm here, I choose to feel." And that is the beginning of true transformation. If you've made it this far to the end of this silent and profound journey, know something very important. Your soul heard every word. And if you stayed this far, it's because something inside you recognized this calling. So before you go, take a deep breath and feel. Feel this presence beginning to emerge within you, this listening being reborn, this flame being rekindled. If this video touched parts of you that had been forgotten, share it with someone you feel needs to reconnect with, because sometimes a single sentence can be the seed of a new awakening. And if you felt that this content speaks to you, subscribe to the channel now. Here, each video is a mirror, a pause, an invitation to presence, to the soul, and to healing. Leave your like also, not out of obligation, but as a silent gesture of recognition, because you felt it, because it was true. Now, the video appearing on your screen is the continuation of that journey. Click on it. It might be exactly what your soul needs to hear right now. The journey doesn't end here, it's just beginning. And this time, with soul.